Hi everyone, hope you're all well. For anyone who hasn't joined before today, this is the third in a in few live streams to celebrate Disability Pride. Um, Disability Pride has lasted throughout the month of July, but I picked today and as well as Monday and Tuesday for Europeans Understood to celebrate it. Again, similarly to before, if you're watching live and feel you want to comment whilst I'm live, feel free to do so at the side. There's a comment box which I can see, so if you comment, I will hopefully see it and be able to respond or answer your comment should it need a response. And so let's get on with today's live stream, which is around the myths of disability. I know hopefully as well as discussing some of the myths around disability as a disabled person who lives with a disability every day. I'll hopefully be able to dispel some of those myths for people that perhaps don't have experience of disability. And I'll also be looking at how people can dispel some of these myths in terms of knowing what disabled people actually want as opposed to believing the myths that they hear around disability. So equally, if you're watching and you're aware of myths or there's a myth that you want to dispel and want to comment about it in the comment box, feel free to do so. So yeah, I think it's I think again I know I spoke about this yesterday and about the fact that society um make almost like not non-disabled people believe that disabled people are a inspiration and all that, and actually we're just wanting to live all their lives. And I would say the same about Miss. And again, people might disagree with me, but it's society that causes these myths, and people obviously that don't have experience of disability often buy into these myths, maybe even subconsciously they don't realise that they've done it, or that they have such a belief until they're confronted with it. So yeah, I definitely do think that it's more of a societal thing than a conscious individual um, decision around this. Um, so if I guess it's a good place to start to, to talk about what disabled people actually want um, as opposed to what what as opposed to what society and in turn non-disabled individuals believe that what people want or what disabled people want more precisely. Um, I think it's important to note that everyone can contribute to this change in beliefs. Um, and it's all about understanding and advocating for for things like a barrier-free environment or speaking up when negative phrases are used. So, like if some if somebody even if they're not directly in the company of a disabled person at the time, if they hear a phrase being used like like that, and this is probably not some of the worst phrases, but like wheelchair bound or handicapped, us watching that have a disability or experience of supporting somebody with a disability, I think you'll probably agree with me when I say those terms are outdated. I'll even go as far as to use a word that is absolutely disgusting, but things like spastic, that's often used in relation to cerebral palsy. And it was at a time. There used to be organisations even called the Spastic Society. I know because I stayed in one of the recommendations when I was receiving treatment down in London. But I guess when we talk about stopping people using outdated phrases, it's phrases like that and words like that we're talking about, because these things are so outdated. I mean, I know that we could sit here all day and debate how far we've come and how far we've still to go on disability. And yes, we have a long way to go, but we've also come a long way. So these words are so outdated because, in terms, if you look back and you look to where we are now, there are examples of positivity in terms of disabled people being employed and disabled people living in their own houses, and just in general, disabled people being treated as equals. And if we eradicate these three phrases and words and terms and try to educate people, and I know that there's a danger as well of the reactions of people if somebody tries to almost pull them up on how they've spoken to a disabled person or how they've described a disabled person, and I totally understand that, and there's no getting away from that either. But it's only by trying to educate people that we'll get rid of the myths around disability and truly um, truly embed inclusion within our society. Um, it's, other ways of doing it would be to have more disabled people in like mainstream media and mainstream programs. So things like we spoke about this on Monday, I think. So things like the Undateables and Love on the Spectrum, which was on Netflix, and Undateables was on Channel 4. There are positive steps happening even right in the moment in terms of that. There's I don't watch the programme, but I know from social media that there's a disabled person on Love Island. But I also know from social media he doesn't identify himself as disabled. But the sheer fact that he has been included in such a popular and high profile reality television show like that shows that there are some positive steps towards dispelling the myth of disability, and that we, people can't be involved in relationships and other things that their counterparts or peers are involved in. A real big um, part of dispelling these myths around disability is for society to recognise people as being capable and not not being surprised if somebody is employed. I get that quite a lot, especially from workmen if they just arrive at my door and not tell me that they're coming. They'll come in and maybe fix whatever they've got to fix or see whatever the work needs done, and then I'll say to them, could you phone or contact me the next time you're coming, because I actually work and I know that I'm working from home at the moment, but I might have commitments like this. I wouldn't want working in when I was doing a live stream or if I had a video call. And the reaction I tend to get a lot of the time is, "Oh, you work?" Yeah, I do. But I feel like saying, "Yeah, what?" Because I use a wheelchair. Um, I just don't make any meaningful contribution to society. That is not the case, but it's something that I do experience quite often in terms of just in daily living. Um, so that's some of the things we can do to confront and change people's thoughts around the myths of disability. Um, when I was preparing for today, I was conscious of the fact that um, there could be a very extensive list of myths. So, for the purpose of today, I've identified five mainly, and if there's time, we can look at some of the others and think about that. But I see that Ellie, um, is, thank you for joining again. I see that you put up that you get that a lot, and I think you're referring to what I just said about employment. Um, and you said that you hate it. I don't blame you because I hate it too. It's not. It's just evidence of people making assumptions again about disabled people. Um, we actually, if we break it down even further to what I've just said, um, um, when we all we really want is to be included, to be part of society. We want to get rid of those barriers that stop us being part of society, being or stop us being equal in society. We want attitudes that accept us as equal but different. That's that's really important. But then this should need to be pinpointed as a thing just relating to disability, because everybody on the planet is different to each person. Like, I don't know, two people with cerebral palsy aren't the same, but equally two people who have no disabilities aren't the same, and the world would be a boring place if we were, because there wouldn't be anything um, unique about anybody. So the fact that is often mentioned in relation to disability, I can understand it because again it's societal beliefs. But to a point, I really don't understand it because everybody's different. We want buildings that we can get into and use. This is really important, but it's not just buildings. We want a society that we can get into and use and not have to think, oh, if I go there, are they, I don't know, are they going to just assume I'm coming there in a group of disabled people as opposed to just a group of friends? Or am I going to be able to access the toilet? Or if I can't access the toilet, is there anywhere around about where near that I can access it, so that this would mean that I wouldn't need to cut my day short? Um, this is not necessarily an issue that I have, but I know it's an issue for lots of disabled people who require, for example, changing places toilets um, with their facilities that they normally include. These are not widely available as yet, so I know that's a concern of people, for people rather. We want to focus on what we want you to focus on you as being the wider society. We want you to focus on what we can do rather than what we can't. And they can't do is often the case when being assessed, for example, for support. It's always on focusing on, okay, what do you need support with, which you can understand to a point, but you could also have a completely different and more positive conversation um, when you go to ask somebody, well, what can you do? It would probably get you to the same answers because you could differentiate between what somebody can do and what somebody can't do, and then identify the areas which they need support. But the tone of the conversation, I can almost assure you, would be entirely different if you focus on what somebody could do as opposed to what they can't. And I see Ellie's put up a point again about having that issue with personal care when she's out. So, yeah, like being able to access a toilet and things. So, yeah, that's a concern that would be really good if we didn't have to do these things, and disability was just accepted as more of the norm in society as opposed to the minority, I guess. But if we're going to look at some of the myths, let's look at firstly the five I identified, and then see if we've got time to discuss the rest. People with a disability don't want or can't be in relationships. That's rubbish, and that's probably the politest word I could use for it. As I said earlier in the week, I'm single at the moment, but I haven't always been. I've been in relationships. I have had arguments in relationships. I've loved in relationships. I've experienced probably all the feelings that everybody without a disability in a relationship would feel, whether it's friendships or romantic relationships. Anybody with it living with any disability, regardless, for example, of how they communicate, how their disability impacts on their daily living, it doesn't matter. Everybody's entitled to have relationships, whether it's friendships or romantic relationships, and nobody should be denied. I've heard an argument of somebody was somebody receiving support. It was felt by their support workers that they shouldn't embark in a relationship in case they got hurt. Being hurt isn't nice, but it's also part of being alive and being human. So it's part of life. So yeah, it might be that if this happens, a person just needs more support to deal with that and process it, and that's fine. But they shouldn't be shielded from having friendships or relationships just because it might not have the desired outcome in the end, because I think the possibility of that is minimal compared to the richness and the love and the positivity these types of relationships can potentially bring to somebody's life. The second myth that I identified was that all persons who use wheelchairs are, are critically ill, or chronically ill, or suffer. Again, not the case. I remember when a couple of years ago, um, one of my local papers wrote an article on new options understood. And the content of the article was reasonably positive, but the headline read, "Sufferer sets up support organisation." During that interview, I hadn't used the word sufferer because, in my view, I don't suffer from cerebral palsy. I have cerebral palsy. I don't suffer from it. And I know there's plenty of people out there that would have other views because there's a lot of medical conditions that can be associated with CP, that might have an impact on somebody's life. But for me, I don't see myself as suffering, and that headline, in my opinion, took the positivity away from the actual content of the article. But then arguably the paper done that to serve newspapers because using a word that such as sufferer evokes pity, and might help them sell papers in their view. But that's certainly one I that I can dispel as a myth. Um, Curious children should never ask people about their disabilities. Again, I know people watching might disagree, might have different opinions and outlooks on this, but how else are children going to learn if they don't ask questions? Because the children don't know until they're taught. And I might as well be the person to teach them because I'm telling them the truth. And whereas if a non-disabled person asks that question, it might not um, necessarily be the truth. And I'm not saying that would be intentional, but it'd be it's better that they ask questions. I'll give you an example. A few about a couple of years ago now, um, my one of my dad's partner's friends visited and I was at my dad's, and she'd brought a granddaughter, and the little girl, after being in the house for about 10-15 minutes, said to me, "Daniel, do your legs not work?" And very quickly, um, the person that was with her said to the almost scolded the little girl for saying, "Don't say things like that." And I stopped, and I said, "Don't do that." I said, "She's never going to learn unless she asks." So I quickly responded and said to the little girl, "No, my legs don't work, not like yours. They do work, but just not as good as yours." And she said, "Okay," and carried on playing with her dollies. And that was kind of that. And then she gave me a cuddle about an hour or so later when she left and things. Maybe not all disabled people like to be asked questions, and that's your choice, and nobody can shoot you down for that. But all I'm saying is, how are children going to learn? Another example that stood out for me was when I was doing, again before the pandemic, my leadership role within the Burmese and guides, and I was working with the Burmese one day, and somebody asked a question, and then no girl said, "But disabled people can't go to the toilet." and I didn't give the girl a row because she was just saying what she did. But I turned around and said, "Who told you that?" And she said, "Oh, I don't know." And I said, "Well, it's not true. I go to the toilet the same as you. I just need help to get there." And she was really apologetic, and I think she was slightly embarrassed. And I said, "Look, there's nothing to apologise for. You don't know what you don't know." But it didn't concern me as much that the Brownie had said this. What did concern me more was the fact that um, the person that told her that disabled people couldn't go to the toilet, that concerned me more because the likelihood of that is that it's probably been an adult or at least an older child that's told her that. And if that's how things are being explained to her, then that's what she was going to believe if I hadn't been around to correct it. So for me, that was very concerning, but I was glad that I was there and able to change her mindset and change her understanding of it to something that was actually true. Another myth is that um, disabled people always need help. We don't. There's a lot of things I can do that I don't need help with, such as eating, brushing my teeth, washing my face. These might sound like wee tasks, and I guess they are in comparison to daily living. But these are all small things that I can do myself, and they're bigger things too. For me, I would rather be asked before you made the assumption. Oh, I always need help with something because I've got a disability. Ask me and I'll certainly tell you if I need help or not. Um, and the fifth one for me was um, um, people with disabilities are more comfortable with their own kind. Even the phrase "their own kind" is so wrong because are we aliens just put on the planet for people's entertainment? No, I don't think so. So we can mix and form friendships and relationships with anybody just as much as the next person. We have got so much to give. Even when I'm talking to you guys, and I feel sorry for saying we. It's almost like I'm segregating, and I really don't mean to. But disabled people, if you want to define it as that, can mix just as much with a non-disabled person as a disabled person because it's our interest and hobbies and who we are as people that attract us to people and make us form friendships, not the fact that we are disabled. Or it shouldn't be the key factor that contributes to any relationships or friendships. But I'm aware that it's now coming up to the half an hour mark, so I hope you've enjoyed today and of today's live stream. It's giving you an insight into my views and maybe change your mindset a little around the myths of disability. Again, I see that Ellie's put up that she doesn't suffer from CP. And yeah, I think it seems that you have the same outlook to me with in terms of this. But as I said, I'm also aware that other people might think differently. And I guess there's no right or wrong answer, but these are just my views on some of the um, myths around disability. I'm glad you enjoyed them, Ellie. This week's live stream from Europe and Understood, and thanks for your support and thanks for joining. Look at, I'm not sure what the next series of Your Options Understood live streams will be around. But look out for some more in the future, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Take care and stay safe.